Part 104. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 1042. In mid-air. Yilin summons Night Dire. The Cybertronian gentleman's speed was unstoppable. In the blink of an eye, Yilin and the motorcycle became one, like a black stream of light, blending into the night. Wandering arms. Red and white light condensed from Yilin's neck downwards, and instantly transformed into a gunman's trench coat that floated like the wind. Mara, come here. Yilin swooped over to the enemy camp, rode on a motorcycle, and as if to show off, took out the 5 Empress relics from the spiritual sea at the same time. Gailai sword. Human Emperor's seal. Weaving book. Xian spear. Noah's Ark number 9999 prototype. The moment the 5 Empress treasures appeared at the same time, there seemed to be some kind of resonance between them, each emitting a different color of light. This made Yilin, who was riding on Night Dire, seem to be holding 5 shining stars. It was obvious that he was taunting the boss. When Yilin appeared in the depths of the boundless darkness, an obvious commotion suddenly appeared. A dark shadow moved silently in the darkness, attacking Yilin. A rich darkness, the color changes inside are difficult to detect. But Yilin is the master of stealth. Among engineers and scholars, no one knows stealth better than him. Even though the dark shadow was deliberately mixed with the dark protective color, Yilin still noticed that the opponent was moving at high speed from the subtle changes in the surrounding space. It is coming. Lord of Shadows. At this moment, Yilin was facing such a high-dimensional existence for the first time. Even if the other party was just a small clone of the Lord of Shadows, Yilin did not dare to be careless. The moment he noticed the movement in the dark night, he turned the car around without hesitation and flew high into the sky. No matter how awesome the Lord of Shadows is, this clone acts as a Mara in this world. 700 years ago, Maleprotagonist was a monk of the demon section. In other words, even after merging with Wangxiahu and becoming a semi-mechanical life form, Maleprotagonist Wangxiahu is likely to rely on spiritual energy to act to some extent. In the 9 heavens, one can weaken the opponent to some extent. Yilin thought so and sprinted high into the sky without hesitation. Even if his guess is wrong, it's not a loss. After all, the harsh environment of Zhikongtian has little impact on Yilin. Even if he cannot strengthen himself, as long as it is possible to weaken the opponent's environment, Yilin can treat it as his home court. The engine is roaring and the exhaust pipe is roaring. The Cybertronian gentleman Nightmare, who has not appeared for a long time, is fully powered this time and wants to perform well. A black stream of light pierced the sky. From the ground, Yilin turned into a dark light and shot straight into the sky. Behind him, a vast and boundless shadow twisted and spread, chasing after him like a formless peerless beast. The tail lights of the Night Dire darken the world crazily and recklessly. Quick! The opponent's speed is too fast. Yilin felt the pressure behind her and sweat broke out in her palms. This pressure did not come from her own psychology. His intuition told him that it would be very dangerous once the darkness caught up with him. In a blink of an eye, the surrounding air became thinner and thinner. Yilin and the Night Dire vehicle merged into one, breaking through layers of sky barriers and reaching 100,000 miles of blue sky. The blue sky is like a clean pot lid, covering this broken land. But this intoxicating scene did not last long. Shadows were chasing at high speed below. Even if Yilin did not have a ground perspective, she could still imagine that what Xiaorugjiu and the others saw at this moment must be an eternal night of despair. There was no light, no stars, no sun or moon, just a darkness that was so oppressive that it was hard to breathe. Ground. Even without Mara's guidance, the shadow soldiers charged towards the high wall according to the established trajectory. They crashed into the high wall without fear of death. The villa on the high wall was covered with dust and was about to collapse. They knew very well that Yilin was fighting Mara on another battlefield. Chenbei and others looked at each other, laughed, and took action almost indiscriminately. This is the tale left by the old guys. Why only young people are allowed to contribute? With a smile on his face, Chenbei raised his palm and pressed it down. A deep, bottomless pit in the shape of a palm instantly appeared under the high wall. With one man and one sword, Nishan he carved out 1,000-foot ravine. Jian Nanchun had one person and one umbrella. As the light from the umbrella fell, mysterious formations fell down one by one. Huaniang changed her attitude, two pointed fangs protruded from the corners of her mouth, and her eyes glowed with a bloodthirsty red light. Without saying a word, she rushed into the enemy's formation, punching and kicking her. Between her fists and kicks, the shadow soldiers were smashed into pieces and sent flying, causing the ground to shake. Big monsters such as Niwu, Gouge, Miao Miao, Juer, Bai Chuchu, Guzu, etc., show their true bodies. The huge white tiger, the roaring green bull, the fire-breathing dog, the spreading poison ivy, the agile cat demon, the birdman flying in the sky, all the demon clans are blocking the shadow soldiers of Mara in their own way. Outside the high wall created by Yilin. In this life, there is no barrier between humans and monsters, and they have truly become a close family. They know very well that the barrier between humans and monsters can be eliminated because of one person. A man lived 3 lives and committed suicide in 2 lives. As a human race and a demon race respectively, he went deep into the relationship between the 2 races. After deeply understanding these 2 races, the 2 races, the human race and the demon race, truly reached the level of men who have mutual understanding. The ground was in full swing. The old guys are fighting hard too. Everyone is fighting, fighting for life, fighting for heaven, and fighting for the world. 9 heavens. Shadows came, covering the sky. The Cybertronian gentleman roared and turned into a Cybertronian biker, ready for a big fight. Okay, you can go down now, go down and help. Yilin kicked Nightmare down to the 9th level. The stunned Nightmare fell to the ground like a meteorite amid the fierce air friction. In the heavy sky, the screams of night terrors rang out. Oh no, I don't want this kind of thing. Night Dire brought him to the 9th heaven and completed the Che mission. At this moment, Yilin almost faced Mara with full spiritual energy and blood. During her honeymoon trip with Xiaorugjiu, Yilin selected a few wild beasts that looked particularly strong and extracted blood intent equivalent to approximately 2 units of Xiao Yang's power, which was nearly 20 points. 20 points of temporary attribute values can forcibly stack Yilin's status to the 3 basic attributes of strength, agility, and spirit, reaching the peak of legendary level. Physical enhancement. Critical attack. Strength. Strengthen. Agile. Dynamic vision. Flexibility. The capillaries on Yilin's body surface burst, and crystal-like blood formed complex circuits on the surface of Yilin's body. At this moment, he regards himself as a weapon to refine and add buffs. Yilin frantically slapped the free method on herself. Rays of light flashed across Yilin's body. He had done something similar when he faced the ultimate nightmare evil god in the game world of Auranos. It's just that his body was still human at the time and could not withstand such a huge enhancement. After swinging a knife, his arms were blown into pieces by the force of the shock. At this moment, after Yilin has experienced 3 reincarnations, her body's strength has far exceeded the category of human. It cannot be compared to the same situation. Many operations that seemed almost self-inflicted in the past can now be easily performed. Every mage has a dream of close combat. After getting ready, Yilin dodged in the air. Boundless darkness filled the space in front of her, and Yilin was swallowed up in the blink of an eye. Hand over the key. In the darkness, a cold and ruthless voice came. As its name suggests, the Master of Shadows hides in the shadows and does output without even intending to show his face. The surrounding black shadows seemed to be accompanied by hundreds of tons of pressure. When Yulin was surrounded by the shadows, even though his body had been strengthened, he made an unbearable click sound in an instant. Yulin's body staggered. In mid-air, his body was compressed by the invisible darkness, and he was forcibly suppressed. Under the pressure comparable to 10 times gravity, Yulin's body was severely injured, and hot blood spurted out from his skin, eyes, ears, mouth, and nose, making him look as hideous and terrifying as a demon, extremely miserable. Yulin endured the 30-level severe pain, gritted his teeth, clapped his palms in front of him, and in the blink of an eye, he forcibly pulled the boundless darkness into the space of evil thoughts. At this time in the space of evil thoughts, countless broken textures appeared in the void, like pieces of broken mirrors, forcibly forming an incomplete piece. And behind each fragment, there is a different layer of scenery, some are seas, some are mountains, some are cities, some are plains, and some are sky. I'll fight you. Yulin did not intend to use small fights to test the depth of MaleProtagonist. He first added buff, and then used lightning speed to solve the battle at the speed of light. On the surface, this seems to be Yulin's plan. You want to trap me in just subspace. A disdainful roar came from the darkness, and around the black shadow, the layers of subspace were instantly dyed with an unknown black color, and the black spots were broken one after another. The shattered deep subspace and the surface subspace were collapsing one after another. The bizarre scenery in front of them was already difficult to describe in words. In the subspace, it was as if someone had smashed a vat of colored ink of different colors, and these colored inks were quickly stirred and mixed, and finally dyed into a lusterless black. The place was torn to pieces, and twisted black shadows turned into big hands, wreaking havoc in the subspace. The black twists passed through the broken space, squeezing towards Yulin from all directions. Analytical horizon. Thinking body. After Yulin's reincarnation, her dual attributes of strength and agility also entered the realm of extraordinary, so that even without the attribute bonus of bloodthirsty disaster, Yulin could easily use analytical vision and extraordinary thinking body, two kinds of extraordinary strengthening. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 1043. Bala Bala, Pain. Yulin fired disaster-ridden into the darkness. Invalid. 5 fingers are held empty. Disaster of annihilation. A huge hole was blown out of the depths of darkness, but it was quickly filled with darkness from all directions. Free method Crimson Chain. Free method Thunder Surge. Free method Super Speed. Yulin is outputting like crazy. But all his abilities have no effect on darkness. To be precise, it is not completely useless. Yulin can slightly slow down the invasion of darkness. However, Mora's true body was hidden in the shadows, and Yulin could not find his true form. As expected, he was very afraid of death. Presumably Murong Shuangxiu was able to kill MaleProtagonist back then, because the MaleProtagonist Murong Shuangxiu killed was not MaleProtagonist himself at all. It wasn't until it became one with Wang Xiaohu that it began to show its true power. The vast shadows were like savage beasts, biting Yulin from all directions. Even though he had already considered the ability of the Lord of Shadows through the effects of his own skills, now that he had seen and experienced it with his own eyes, Yulin deeply understood the horror of the Lord level. Even if, it's just a part of the master. All the skills and moves that Yulin plays will be assimilated by the darkness, swallowed up, and disappear without a trace in an instant if they fall in the shadow. Darkness struck, and Yulin seemed to be soaked in pitch-black ink. His limbs, his torso, his eyes, ears, mouth, and nose were being swallowed up by the darkness at a speed visible to the naked eye. There was no pain, no feeling, little by little he was drowning in the darkness. Goo goo goo. The darkness was like a boundless sea. Yulin opened her mouth and spit out bubbles one by one. Yulin felt that the sense of touch was being stripped away from his body. When he looked down, the ends of his limbs were integrated with the darkness and could no longer be seen. Hand over the keys. A dark hand stretched out from behind Yulin and strangled Yulin's neck from a strange angle. The Lord of Shadow's habit was to stab people from behind, and now it also pinched the back of Yulin's neck from behind. The 6 treasures are all in my spiritual world. Even if you kill me, you can't take them away. Yulin endured the intense pain and roared unwillingly. Yet. A cold and ruthless voice with strange emotions. That kind of emotion didn't feel like disdain, contempt, or anger to Yulin, but a kind of pity. Yes, mercy. Mara is pitying Yurin's weakness. He puts himself in a perspective that is much higher than Yurin's, pitying the humbleness of the weak. Inside the hub, the sky is filled with yellow sand. Darkness invades here. It is the power of shadow. It is not only devouring Yulin's body, it is even corroding Yulin's spiritual sea. Ignorance. Boundless darkness envelops the scenery in the spiritual sea. On the calm lake, ripples appear, and a humanoid creature is pitch black, like the Black Murderer in Detective Comics, weird. Silently came to Yulin's spiritual world. In front of the black man, above the lake, were 5 noble phantasms with flowing light. The immortal killing spear, the book of weaving, the seal of the human emperor, the Gailai sword, and the prototype of Noah's Ark number 9999 were all spinning on the lake, seemingly letting the mermaid do whatever they wanted. Besides, a gap suddenly opened on the black man's face, about where his mouth was. The gap opened to the ear, to the extreme, like an exaggerated smile. The black man stepped on the lake, and a bottomless whirlpool suddenly opened up on the lake. 3 stones that had lost their light slowly floated up from the whirlpool that appeared in the lake. The 7th treasure, the Emperor's treasure that has never been rumored in the world, the 3 life stone, has been in Yulin's body from the beginning. Yulin entered reincarnation because of the 3 life stones, and it was already destined from the beginning that only Yulin could collect these 7 keys. The 6 treasures shine brightly and are close to each other, as if they are going to merge into one. You know, as a mere mortal, I never dare to underestimate you. Just when the black man was about to reach out for the key that would allow him to leave this world, Yulin's voices fell from all directions. The black man paused. It raised its head. In the outside world, Yulin used her last strength to throw a mirror out of the storage space. An ordinary mirror. This is the dressing mirror that Xiaorugjia's wife always carries with her. It is perfectly normal for women to carry a small mirror with them. The mirror rotates and rises. In the boundless darkness, this palm-sized mirror ironically becomes the only light in the darkness. The rotating mirror reflected Yulin's ferocious face, which was full of black stains. He looked at himself in the mirror. Let the world feel pain from now on, sleep. 3 times the spiritual energy consumption. This is the 3rd way to unlock Disaster Haunted. Disaster Ridden is Yulin's first modular skill after becoming an apostle. His understanding of this skill is even deeper than his understanding of his wife Xiaorugjia. For this skill, he developed 3 ways to unlock it. 1. Speed reading. 2. Increase the success rate of skills. The 3rd way to unlock the ban is to designate any negative state through the consumption of 3 times the spiritual energy value to produce a disaster critical strike on the target. It's useless. Inside the hub. After Maloo paused for a moment, he prepared to take away 6 treasures and combine them into the real key to leave the world. It's not the real Shadow Lord. To be precise, it is just a clone abandoned here by the Shadow Lord. The Lord of Shadows has many clones, so cutting off 2 or 3 is harmless, painless, and painless. However, there is enough spiritual energy here and there are chi refiners. 5,000 years ago, when chi refiners were at their peak, countless techniques and magic weapons were created. By chance, Mara, as an outcast, developed spiritual intelligence. It uses sweet words to seduce the chi master who accidentally finds it, and learns the chi refinement techniques. After hundreds of years of hard training and absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, Mara finally succeeded in condensing a form. It possesses most of the memories of the Lord of Shadows and even understands the rules of shadows, except that it does not have a throne. A master who has lost his divine throne is an incomplete master. Therefore, Mara is born with a disability. Today, it finally came here. After collecting the 7 keys and invading 11 paradise, it will be eligible to participate in that game. As abandoned scum / it no longer has anything to do with the Shadow Lord. It was born from the Lord of Shadows and now has become an independent existence. It is Mara. Mara's dark palm reached for the treasure. Mara knows Yilin's moves very well. In the dizzying fight just now, Yilin threw out a bunch of skills like shaking a sieve. Among them is disaster written. When Yiren shouted let the world feel pain from now on, Mara guessed Yiren's plan. The power of a mere disaster is nothing more than that. It didn't even think about hiding. This trick doesn't work on it. So, Yilin came to the hub in a spiritual state, looked at MaleProtagonist who was about to take away the Empress treasure, and said with a smile, I have never underestimated you. I know that darkness can even invade my spirit. MaleProtagonist was stunned. Yilin raised a finger and shook it from side to side, making it very loud. He was floating in the darkness, with a relaxed and comfortable expression on his face, and said leisurely, by the way, when I was newlywed, Xiaohu came to congratulate me and said something that made me feel very strange. I once got a fusion card by chance, which fused a fat man and a dog into one body. He said something at that time, I am neither Fatty Li nor Emperor Wang Tian, but Emperor Fatty. In other words, the true fusion of personalities can give birth to a brand new personality. What Wang Xiaohu said at that time was, I am both Wang Xiaohu and MaleProtagonist. So I speculate that the fusion between you and Wang Xiaohu may not be a true fusion, but it is actually quite normal. Since your true self is a transcendent existence, how can you be willing to condescend to truly fuse with the ant in your eyes? The gap that represented the smile on Mara's face was closed tightly. This means that Yilin is right. Since it is not a true personality fusion, then the question is, where is Wang Xiaohu now? You are afraid of death, so no matter what, you will not rush in front, even if you strangle my neck, you will come from behind. But only for that moment, only when you invade my spirit, only then will your true identity be revealed. And this moment is also the moment when you and Wang Xiaohu are completely separated. MaleProtagonist was shocked. When he heard this, he turned around and ran away, regardless of the 6 treasures in front of him. The darkness quickly faded away from the outside world. But in the oasis of the spiritual sea, the fleeing Mara suddenly hit a red barrier and bounced it back. This is impossible. Mara panicked. Yilin spread her palms with a helpless expression, it seems you still don't understand what's going on. Do you know why I've been chatting with you for so long? My last shot of disaster written was not directed at you, came to release. Yilin pointed his finger at himself, it's me. Boom, boom, boom. Mara sensed that something was wrong in the atmosphere, and transformed into millions of people, rushing around crazily, trying to escape. But all the shadow clones hit the red wall. It's a pity, Yilin stared at MaleProtagonist with a smile, the moment I fell asleep, this place was no longer my territory. A mini and enchanting little bat, swaying its head and twerking rhythmically, as if it was high, flew to the front of Mara. She was seen gracefully in mid-air, her wings rolled in front of her, opening with aristocratic etiquette. Green said cheerfully to the Lord of Shadows, I wish you a wonderful night, yo. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 1044. Before the fight begins. Green, as your biggest creditor, I think I have an obligation to give you a little reminder. Yulin, huh? Why didn't you tell me earlier? Green, I just remembered it. Yulin, hurry up then. Green, if the Mara you are talking about is somewhat similar to the guy in my impression, I think it should have a fatal weakness. That is fear of death, very fear of death, extremely afraid of death. Is fear of death a shortcoming? Isn't it? Yulin immediately raised a question mark. But after thinking about it carefully, Yulin looked a little more serious. In other words, it is difficult to completely kill it. A little bit, Green replied honestly. What if it's you? Yulin's eyes wandered and she came up with Green's idea. Is this a deal? Green has been tossing Yulin to death in his dreams these days. He doesn't know if Green himself has the S attribute, or he has awakened the S attribute unintentionally. These Torsians have made Green understand the taste. What she said was obviously a trap, waiting for Yulin to jump into it. Okay. Add another 10 years if Yulin's debts are not heavy enough, it doesn't matter. Then let me give you a little suggestion. Green chuckled strangely, floated in front of Yulin, stretched out his wings and poked Yulin between the eyebrows, let it come in, and then, completely give all the earth to me. Inside the hub, Green wings fell. When Yulin's body fell into a complete sleep, in the dream, this place became Green's territory. Green's eyes ignited with a scarlet nightmare. Behind the bat, a huge shadow, like a celestial being, descended from the sky and pressed down here. The shadow looked like a fair lady, wrapped in a cloak as red as blood. The wailing of billions of creatures is like a moving symphony, which becomes the gorgeous BGM for Green's debut. Behind Green, a throne as towering as a mountain emerged. On the blood-red throne, as magnificent as blood, there are countless souls trapped in nightmares and unable to extricate themselves, wailing hysterically. Yulin only had time to take a look at the shadow behind the bat. After just one look, he felt as if his head was split open with a saw, and the pain was as painful as a gourd. Let's go, you can't bear it? Yulin's vision went dark and she was driven out of the nightmare. After Yulin left her spiritual sea, a terrifying bloody hurricane raged in the oasis. The light and shadow were distorted, and Amologo was crushed into a ball by Green amid the ear-piercing screams. Yulin opened her eyes. The darkness receded like a tide. Not far away, Wang Xiaohu's body was falling downwards. On his body, jet-black air currents spurted out from his eyes, ears, mouth, and nose. The sky is bright again. Yulin's current condition is not particularly good. His limbs are being repaired at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the shadows, most of his organs and limbs were devoured. If it weren't for his inhuman constitution, even if he could survive, he would still be disabled. With the intense consumption of physical energy, Yulin just recovered one hand and caught the falling Wang Xiaohu in mid-air. Brother Lin, I'm sorry. Mara died completely. Wang Xiaohu also changed back to the Wang Xiaohu he used to be. He closed his eyes and kept saying the same sentence, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Go back, Xiaohu. Yulin reached out and pressed Wang Xiaohu's chest. There was no heart beating in his body. Wang Xiaohu's transformation is irreversible. There was an artificial creation that replaced Wang Xiaohu's heart, allowing Wang Xiaohu to live until now. That is the last treasure left by the Empress. Recorded in history books, Tiangong. The two of them fell downwards. In the process of falling, Green is done. She emerged with a contented burp. Seeing Green holding his bulging belly, Yulin still didn't understand the fishiness behind it. Ah, you are eating from both ends this time, right? Yulin finally understood this guy's true nature. Even if Yulin did not trade the nightmare of the 10 years with Green, Green would still be greedy for Moro's dream child and find other reasons to take the initiative. This time, Yilin was like running into Green's arms. Green turned his head and secretly wiped his mouth. Humans, you must know how to be grateful. Thank you, Lord Green. Clever. Green flicked his wings and threw a dark thing towards Yilin. If you can't say it, you can't say it, so why bother throwing shit? Yilin's first reaction was this. But Green didn't give Yilin a chance to refuse, and forced the thing into Yilin's hand. Words floated before Yilin's eyes. Seed of Nirvana. Level epic. Effect after planting, wait for a while, you may have unexpected harvest. Explanation: the seed can grow anywhere, be careful not to fall into your mouth, the consequences will be serious. Is this the seeds of the 7 treasure glazed tree? Why did it fall out of Mara? Hiccup if you don't want to. Yilin put it away without saying a word. This is most likely the seed that Yilin failed to find after he bulldozed Yanfuzhou. Unexpectedly, the boss MaleProtagonist exploded. It can be said that the willow has been planted unintentionally, and the willow has become a shadow. Return to the ground. It's all over. In every sense. With the complete death of Mara, the day of destruction ended, and the world could continue. As for the army of shadow soldiers who invaded Dongsheng Shenzhou, the shadows covering their bodies disappeared, and all kinds of strangely transformed people fell to the ground one after another, unable to twitch. It is worth mentioning that Night Dyer worked so hard and was torn to pieces, lying on the side dying. We're out of fuel and we're dying. Yilin casually put the tool cart Nightmare back into the mount space. Everyone was waiting eagerly on the wall for Yilin's return. Xiaorugjiu threw herself into Yilin's arms. She was wondering just now whether her husband had passed away secretly again. She was not even pregnant with the child. How could you just die just because you said you were dead? It wasn't until Yilin returned safely that Xiaorugjiu breathed a sigh of relief. She held Yilin's hand tightly and whispered, "Brother, you must not let go." Yes, if it doesn't loosen, it won't loosen." Wang Xiaohu stood aside, looking at Yilin, who was surrounded by a group of old men, his mechanical eyes closing and closing. After summarizing the events in the 9 heavens and telling Xiaorugjiu and others in a few words, Yilin led Xiaorugjiu and came to Wang Xiaohu. He was silent. He rescued Wang Xiaohu from the corruption of MaleProtagonist, but the last key became Wang Xiaohu's heart. If he wanted to leave, he must. "Brother Lin." Wang Xiaohu's mouth made an electronic synthesized sound. It was Xiaohu's weakness that created MaleProtagonist. Now that MaleProtagonist is dead, everything is over. Xiaohu now only has one thing to ask Brother Lin. Can a person be resurrected after death? After Wang Xiaohu was transformed, his facial features lost the right to express joy, anger, sorrow, and joy, but when everyone listened to Wang Xiaohu's words, they couldn't help but imagine the feeling of hope and helplessness that Wang Xiaohu had when he asked this question. Yilin shook his head. When a person dies, it's over. There is no possibility of resurrection. Wang Xiaohu paused for a moment, then nodded. In that case, Xiaohu wants to be buried with Yan Qingziu in Qingyu village. Brother Lin, this is Xiaohu's last wish. Please make sure to fulfill it. Yilin was silent again. Xiaohu has no reason to live anymore. Besides, Yan Qingziu, she definitely doesn't want to see Xiaohu become like a human, a ghost at this point. Wang Xiaohu clasped his hands together, and his tone was terrifyingly calm. Master Kuya, he once said that death is not the end. He has always believed that even if reincarnation has ended, as long as you have kind thoughts, you can reach the other side of your heart. Moreover, Xiaohu has done many evil things, which is unacceptable to heaven. This is Xiaohu's retribution. Xiaorugjiu couldn't bear it. She couldn't help but recall in her mind that Yilin, Wang Xiaohu, and the 3 of her met outside the Golden Temple. Then all kinds of changes happened. Over the years, She watched helplessly how Wang Xiaohu changed from Buddhism to Buddhism. The younger generation of elite disciples are embarking on the road of no return step by step. Everything in front of them has changed, making Xiaorugjiu sigh and sad. Infinity Throne. Author, Bai Yi Shueshi. Chapter 1045. Wang Xiaohu wanted to die. The others were not familiar with Wang Xiaohu and did not rashly dissuade him. Yilin, on the other hand, had already expected this result and would not be too surprised. Yilin waved her hand, and the prototype of Noah's Ark appeared, with a flash of light, wrapping everyone in it. In the blink of an eye, everyone in the light shuttle crossed thousands of miles of ocean and arrived at Zinyu, a certain steel city. This is the headquarters of the MaleProtagonist group. Over the years, MaleProtagonist and Wang Xiaohu have built a steel empire here. I'll take Yan Qingziu out. Wang Xiaohu stepped into it alone. Everyone was silent. Xiaorugji rubbed her husband's palm. Is this really good? Yilin nodded expressionlessly. After a while, Yilin chuckled helplessly. That's it? What did senior brother want to understand again? Now I finally understand the cause of Zen Master Kuyu's death. He should have been vaguely aware that today, 700 years later, Wang Xiaohu will come as a big devil. This is also the devil predicted by Zen Master Kuyu. Turns out to be MaleProtagonist and Wang Xiaohu. But why did Zen Master Kuyu die? I don't quite understand that feeling, but Wang Xiaohu's words made me understand one thing. Yilin looked in the direction of the gate of the MaleProtagonist group and said softly, no matter what Zen Master Kuyu was planning back then, his education, today, Wang Xiaohu is relieved and has no regrets. Wang Xiaohu, who stepped out from the MaleProtagonist group, was carrying a steel coffin on his back. The front of the coffin was made of translucent glass, and a green liquid was vaguely floating inside. Yan Qingziu's body was soaked in the liquid. But after so many years, it is impossible for the body to be preserved intact. The body in the coffin has already shown obvious decay. But today, 700 years later, Yan Qingziu's body has not rotted into bones. This must be a combination of science and metaphysics. Final results. The prototype of Noah's Ark is like a bus, it comes and leaves at a moment's notice. Within an hour, you can come and go as you please, which is very convenient. Yilin took Wang Xiaohu and others across thousands of mountains and seas again and returned to the former Qingyu village. This place has long since become a ruin, with wild beasts entrenched inside. Because Jian Nanshan and others' actions were equivalent to Krypton's fate, Yilin worked hard to use her magical powers to clean up the ruins of Qingyu village without saying a word. This place has long lost any of its former charm, with ruins everywhere. Wang Xiaohu chose a place, dug a pit, and buried Yan Qingziu. He took the opportunity to dig a hole next to Yan Qingziu. This is the trap Wang Xiaohu left for himself. Once the heart is removed, he won't live long. Today is the day to leave. The people he cared about in this world were all there, and Yilin didn't need to say goodbye. 6 treasures of light floated in the sky, and Wang Xiaohu's chest, attracted by the other treasures, also emitted a hazy glow through his body surface. The 7 treasures are finally gathered together. Including the 3 life stones, the remaining 6 treasures were slowly approaching Wang Xiaohu. Countless streams of light intertwined around him. With a thought in his mind, Yilin waved his hand and sent the others 100 steps away. But when he was about to push Xiaorugjiu away, Xiaorugjiu held on tightly and shook her head. No matter what, we are husband and wife, we will face life and death together, and we will face it together. Good. Yilin was silent. The 7 treasures are merging. The 7 treasures Xiao 11 left behind were broken down into streams of dazzling white light under the guidance of certain rules. The texture of these streams of light was very familiar to Yilin. It was clearly the light that filled the surroundings in the waiting room before he entered the trial. This is the light of 11 paradise. The 7 treasures merged into one, and the alloy plate on Wang Xiaohu's chest shattered, and a round sphere emerged from the corner, about to break out of Wang Xiaohu's body. And behind Wang Xiaohu, a looming white door appeared. On the white door, there are interlaced chains that tightly close the door. In the center of all the intertwined chains, a big lock is particularly conspicuous. On that lock, the light and shadow are colorful, flickering and appearing, seeming to exist between reality and illusion. Wang Xiaohu's face showed pain, and he was obviously suffering from the pain of heartbreaking. If he became a complete mechanical life, he would naturally not be able to feel pain, but if only a part of his body was transformed into a mechanical component, the pain would still hurt. Although Yilin couldn't bear to see her former friends suffer such pain, Yilin had already made up her mind to achieve his goal no matter what. "I'm sorry, Xiaohu. Let's do it," Brother Lin Xiaohu closed his eyes and said. Others don't know what's going on. They only saw 6 rays of light approaching Wang Xiaohu. They couldn't see the door. Yilin walked closer to the white door, vaguely aware that something was wrong. The state of the door gave him a strange feeling. Logically speaking, the door shouldn't be so looming. No, according to the norm, the way he returned this time is also unusual. Yeah, unusual. These days, Yilin has been guessing about the deep meaning of Xiao 11 leaving 7 keys. If it is a normal return, he does not need to have a key at all. He only needs to complete the main mission and meet the return conditions, and he can go back. Why did you leave the key? Yilin speculated that the reason why Xiao 11 left the 7 keys was to allow Yilin to return to 11 Paradise in a different way. It was this incident that gave Yilin the idea of bringing everyone back. He wants to forcefully use the key to open the return passage and take everyone back. Yilin's eyes narrowed, and the 7 keys were about to merge into one key. On the white door leaf, numerous chains appeared with dense cracks as they were keyed together. Suddenly, Yilin's vision turned scarlet like blood. Between him and the door, layers of illusory walls appeared. The illusory walls are all composed of no pass. Yilin is not allowed to pass here. Dazzling warning text was written in front of Yilin. Warn. 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 An illegal intruder was detected and forced into 11 Paradise through illegal means. An illegal intruder was detected and forced into 11 Paradise through illegal means. An illegal intruder was detected and forced into 11 Paradise through illegal means. The anti-intrusion program will be launched soon. The anti-intrusion program will be launched soon. The anti-intrusion program will be launched soon. Illegal intruder, me. He was actually judged as an illegal intruder. At this point, Wang Xiaohu's body fell down. A colorful key-shaped fluid body floats in front of the door lock. But as the warning text appeared, the key was blocked from the door and was trying to break through. A giant scale, covered with intricate textures, appears in the sky. A cold and ruthless female voice came from the phantom of the scale. According to the convention. Article 17864. Rule 573. Intruder detected. According to the details, the erasure procedure will be carried out. The expressions of everyone present changed. Although Huan Niang, Xiaorugjiu, Jian Nanshan, Chen Bei, and others could not see the door, they could not see the fancy warning text. But the voice in the sky seemed to be aimed at all of them. The cold, ruthless, machine-like voice made them feel as if they were immersed in ice water, and as if they were pressed under the mountains, so suppressed that they could not breathe. Angry. Everyone looked at the sky. The huge phantom of the scale was higher than the sky, more dazzling than the scorching sun, and more transparent than the sky. A faint glow spreads over the world, but at this moment, no one has time to appreciate the magnificent beauty of the sky. They feel like they are being watched and warned by some kind of will. Obliterate. A circle of faint ripples appeared behind Yilin. No sign, no warning, no sound. A young girl appeared in the ripples. The girl's face is as sweet as a delicate doll and as peaceful as the moon. She stood barefoot, with a few light snowflakes on her thin cotton-padded jacket shoulders. Time seems to stand still. At this moment, the girl walked towards Yilin's back step by step. Yilin didn't seem to feel anything. No. To be precise, everyone around seemed to have no reaction at all to the girl's appearance. The girl walked quietly through the crowd and stepped out of the ripples. With every step she took, her body became more solid, becoming more and more like a complete person. The girl stretched out her hand into the void beside her. The space was distorted, and rays of light composed of numbers 1 and 0 quickly condensed into the shape of a dagger in the girl's hand. If anyone pays attention, they will find that every step the girl takes is exactly the same and no less. Her rhythm was as steady as a meticulous machine. Her steps were as quiet as an elf who could not eat the fireworks of the world. Everyone looked at the girl. Their faces showed no reaction. They actually saw it. But the strange and inconsistent feeling on the girl's body, which seemed to be isolated from the world, prevented them from making any reaction. Everyone just watched helplessly as the girl raised her dagger and stabbed it gently into Yilin's back. Tai. Lin Yi. In this moment, after a pause of less than 1 second, time that stood still spun again. No. It was someone's sudden movement that broke the illusion that time stood still. The people who started to move were Qianbei and Huan Yang. I saw. Qianbei's 7 orifices spurted out a large amount of blood, and his limbs were actually glowing like flames, burning and collapsing. He is burning his body. The moment Qianbei and Huan Yang were acting, the sound of chains breaking could be heard faintly in their ears. Huan Yang stood between Dao and Yilin. After Qianbei burned his body, he gained a power that rivaled that of his peak, and punched the girl in the back. This punch can destroy cities, open mountains, crack the ground, and kill people. Pook. Puff. Yilin turned around in shock. Between Yilin and the girl, Huan Yang was stabbed in the chest, her body turned into liquid, gradually collapsed and disappeared. Qianbei's right arm that punched was broken into 10 pieces. The bones and flesh were mixed together and flew backwards 100 meters away. As the light of Huan Yang's body dissipated, Yilin's dilated pupils reflected the girl's familiar yet unfamiliar face. It's Ling Yi. It's his childhood sweetheart, Ling Yi. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 1046. Ah. 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 There was a bang in Yilin's mind, as if something was broken. What is broken is a string called reason. The flower girl is dead. I don't know whether Lao Chen is alive or dead. Now, standing in front of him, blocking his return was Ling Yi. It was the Ling Yi who was both familiar and unfamiliar. My son, stay alive. The flower girl's body dissipated in front of Yilin and collapsed into dust. She used her last remaining head, exhausted her last strength, smiled sweetly, and left her last words. In fact, she lied to Yilin. She actually saw snippets. Therefore, she bore the blow for Yilin. The future can be changed. It's nothing more than one life for another. A female corpse who has lived for 5,000 years is here to bear this death for her son Tai, and ends her life without regrets. This is enough. The flower girl smiled as her world fell into eternal darkness. The tomorrow that belongs to her will never come. But I hope you can return to the place where you truly belong. My Tai. In an instant, Huan Yang's death restored Yilin's ability to move. He struggled in the bondage and broke free from the iron rope of fate. Yilin's face was ferocious, and there was blood from her gums. He took the key into his hand with one hand, and with his brain running at high speed, he opened the teleportation gate behind everyone at the same time and pushed everyone into the teleportation gate. An instant later, Orange light spots burst out everywhere, and everyone, including Yilin, disappeared in front of Ling Yi. 1,000 miles away. Boom. 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 Apertures appeared one after another, and Yilin, Xiaorugjiu and others fell out of the apertures in embarrassment and fell to the ground. This was a strange valley, and they fell into a fast-flowing river. Brother. Xiaorugjiu had no idea what was going on, but she felt that Yilin was in a state of confusion at the moment. If he were a normal person, he would never let himself fall into such an embarrassing situation. Who is that woman who suddenly appears and assassinates her husband? Xiaorugjiu floated Yilin from the river, but Yilin swam in the direction of Lao Chen expressionlessly. Yilin hugged Chen Bei. On the surface of Chen Bei's body, the skin peeled off in pieces. His feet below the knees seemed to have been burned, emitting a terrible burning smell. The right arm used to attack Ling Yi, from the shoulder down, was like a tattered rag, hanging limply. No wounds could be seen on the entire arm, because there was blood everywhere, and the blood flowed like a gush, dyeing the river red. Everyone had no time to greet each other. Above them, with the fluctuation of ripples, Ling Yi appeared again. Walk. Yilin started teleporting again without hesitation, and everyone disappeared from the river again. Opening a large number of portals at the same time requires a large amount of spiritual energy. After doing so twice in a row, with the intense consumption of spiritual energy, even Yilin felt dizzy and shaking. This time, they actually appeared above the vast sea and were about to fall. Before Ling Yi appeared again, Yilin once again launched a large-scale teleportation and arrived at Nanzan Buzhu. Run away. After teleporting 6 times in a row, Yilin once again took out the key to the flow of light. The moment the key appeared, the illusory door appeared in front of Yilin. Somehow this time, everyone saw the white door that was tightly closed with a big lock. Yilin forcefully inserted the key into the keyhole, clicked it, and turned the lock open. It's done. The door opened a crack. Warm light leaked from behind the gap. But the next second, a knife chopped the illusory door into pieces, and in the sky full of light and dust, Ling Yi appeared strangely in front of Yilin again. Escape. Yilin gritted his teeth and blood spilled from his mouth. He took back the key again, activated the teleportation, and took everyone away from the shore. When everyone reappeared, they came to a population gathering place in Nanzan Buzhu. Snapped. Yilin clapped his hands together, and before they had time to land, everyone arrived in a strange subspace in the blink of an eye. This is Yilin's evil space. He temporarily hid everyone here. In Yilin's arms, Chen Bei kept his eyes closed, patted Yilin's hand, and floated up unsteadily. Let me buy time for you. Yilin didn't know what to say. Chen Bei saw the hesitation in Yilin's heart and curled his lips lightly. Hey, you must have noticed that just now, I used a secret technique that can only be used once in a lifetime. At this moment, I am unbeatable in the world. Now I still have one left arm that can be used. I don't know how high the sky is to kill someone. It's easy for my baby. The old teacher Huayan stood beside Chen Bei. The two joined hands. She didn't speak, her eyes were as tender as water, looking at the man she had loved for many years. Even though Chen Bei is old and fading now, in Master Huayan's heart, Chen Bei is still as invincible as ever. Lao Chen winked and spoke in a relaxed manner, but his pale face could not fool anyone present. Without Yilin's consent, Chen Bei had just used the secret method of burning life in exchange for the true essence of his life. Every monk had his own desperate method. Once he used it, he would die together. Therefore, in the past era, the fighting between the monks was either a thunderous strike that killed each other, or they were doing Tai Chi on purpose. It was not good for everyone if it dragged on for a long time, and they would get involved every minute. Obviously, Yilin expected that something unexpected would happen when she returned. But when the accident turned into a reality and appeared in front of Yilin, he still lost his previous calmness. He was panicked, he was at a loss, he was transformed from a rational machine into a mortal again. Not long ago, Yilin used a weaving book to read 1252 futures. But all the future is suddenly cut off at the end. The reason for this result is that the future is truncated, and what Yilin cannot calculate is the higher dimension that is far beyond Yilin's dimension. Supervisor, Ling Yi. Yilin is too deeply involved with this world, too deeply, too deeply. His reason was so closely entangled with the world that he could no longer return to normal and became an intruder. Under Xiao 11's arrangement, Yilin was like a person who used the back door. Now that he has been discovered, he is using strong methods to eliminate him. Past, present, future. Past. Past. Click click click. While Yilin was thinking, his forehead suddenly hurt. The dead skin on his forehead cracked silently, and dark blood dripped down his eyebrows. Yilin covered her forehead and looked up at the sky. In the space of evil thoughts, a hole was torn out by Ling Yi in the boundless black cloud. The subspace barrier was shattered like a mirror falling to the ground. The space of evil thoughts was easily broken. Qianbei laughed and flew towards Ling Yi in the sky. Yilin gritted his teeth. Qianbei used his own life to buy time for Yilin. He took out the key again, and the illusory door appeared in front of him. Hurry up! Qianbei's punch stirred up the storm. Ling Yi just took a step quietly and waved the dagger. The wind disappears and the clouds stop. Qianbei was divided into two halves. Chen. Shi Huiyan rushed towards Qianbei's body in despair. The next second, Shi Huiyan's head and neck separated. At the end, she didn't have time to hug her beloved man again. Ling Yi walked through the bodies of Qianbei and Shi Huiyan with an expressionless face and quickly approached the ground. Her speed cannot be described by the concept of speed. As if in the blink of an eye, she has transcended space and time, and is moving in the broken subspace in a way that no one can imagine. The door cracked open again. Light leaked from the cracks. All the chains used to close the door were broken one after another. Behind the door, a channel made of flowing light extends to the end of the void and is rapidly taking shape. But Ling Yi has already stepped on the corpses of Qianbei and Shi Huiyan. Here they come. Jian Nanchun shook his head. When your baby is full moon, remember to leave a glass of wine for me. Remember, sprinkle it on the land to the south, so I can drink it. He smiled, combing Mediterranean's sparse hair in mid-air, and flew towards Ling Yi. One person, one umbrella, white clothes beat the snow, and the style is still the same as before. The others looked at each other. Miao Miao wiped the corners of her eyes and pushed Xiaorugjiu and Yilin into the opening door. Young master, I will leave it to you. If you make the young master unhappy, Miao Miao will not let you go even if you are a ghost. Jewer, same as above. Bai Chu Chu transformed into a white tiger. You guys leave quickly. Brother Go crossed his arms, with a look of helplessness on his face. Qian Lang died on the beach. Butter scratched his head. Last time you died, this time it's my turn. As the saying goes, one life is a loss for another. One life is worth one life, and we will never owe each other anything. Nishan he was already in mid-air, with thousands of swords unsheathed and blood spilling into the sky. Now, they all have the same idea. Already, enough of living. They lived a long, long, long time. It's better to help that young couple. At the end, let them go crazy again, as monks, as the unrivaled demon, again. Live. 1. Come back. Brother, let's go. Xiaorugjiu burst into tears, holding her senior brother's hand and struggling to bring her senior brother through the door. We must not. In mid-air, Ling Yi smashed one after another with her invincible attitude. From the sky, flesh and blood fell like rain. Crash. At this moment, Yilin's surroundings were quiet. All he could hear was, bang, bang, bang. That was the sound of former friends being smashed into pieces by Ling Yi one after another. Yes, hit. All the sword light and all the power falling on Ling Yi could not produce the slightest change. She is like an existence isolated from the world, and nothing can harm her in the slightest. Yilin has never been an impulsive person. In the past, in every trial, he was calculating benefits, calculating gains and losses, and calculating cost-effectiveness. Reason told him that he must not live up to the sacrifices of his friends, and to make their deaths more valuable, he quickly took Xiaorugjiu away. But the more she thought rationally, the deeper inside Yilin felt, as if a spoon was stirring hard, pulling out the flesh of the heart, and repeatedly digging into it. The pain was unbearable. He felt like there was a hole in his chest. The door opens. A return passage is about to be formed, through which they will return to the reality where Yilin is. Just a little, just one step away. Just one step. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 1047. In the returning light, Xiaorugjiu suddenly looked back. Everyone died. The shattered corpses in the air didn't even have time to fall. Ling Yi has arrived behind Xiaorugjiu and Yilin. She gets closer little by little. It seems very slow. But in fact, her speed was hundreds, thousands, or 10,000 times faster than Yilin and Xiaorugjiu's speed when they stepped into the passage. At this moment, Xiaorugjiu turned around and looked at Ling Yi approaching, and she suddenly understood. She understood everything. She vaguely understood the meaning of her existence. If her life existed for something that happened at a certain time, moment, or place, then it must be here. Her whole life, what she has learned, her life, everything about her, exists for this moment. The senior brother had brought warmth and sunshine to her life, so now it was her turn to open a smooth path home for the senior brother. Behind that door is senior brother's home, senior brother's true destination. It was indeed a dream. Xiaorugjiu smiled sweetly. This smile is so charming that the sun, moon, and stars lose their luster. Even if she can't grow old hand in hand with her senior brother, if her beauty can be engraved in his memory forever, then she will have no regrets. Shwe'er, can I be your missing senior brother? No wonder, in the ninth heaven, the master taught her this technique. Yilin held Xiaorugjiu's hand tightly, and her palm suddenly became empty. His hands were empty. Xiaorugjiu's warmth is no longer there, and Xiaorugjiu's skin can no longer be felt. Just cold snowflakes. Xiaorugjiu was completely white. In the blink of an eye, pieces of her body peeled off, and the peeling flesh and blood turned into flying snow. In an instant, everything in front of her was completely frozen. She turned into snow. The flying snow in the sky condensed into a looming figure of a woman, gently holding the stunned Yilin and hugging him into her arms. Then, the vast flying snow burst into pieces in Yilin's arms, completely covering Ling Yi's body. Ling Yi's body paused for a moment. The surface of her body was covered with a layer of frost. This is a unique skill that Murong Shuangxiu has realized in her long life. Transform into thousands of miles of snow, able to freeze everything. Including time, including reason. I'm sorry, senior brother. This time, I let go first. But if it's okay, senior brother, just forget about me. But, I don't want senior brother to forget Shwe'er. Can you at least remember one thing? I am, Xiaorugjiu. You're, Xiaorugjiu. Stay alive, senior brother. In the falling snow. A faint sigh echoed. Yilin stared blankly at the snowy scene in front of her. Before his eyes, he fell into boundless darkness. Hey, hey, can you hear me? In the boundless darkness, a little girl with braids appeared in front of Yilin out of thin air. At this moment, Yilin lost her five senses and was floating in the dark space like a dead corpse. There is no light, no sound, no temperature. Zioxy. A glimmer of light appeared in Yilin's gray eyes. That is a kind of light called hate. Hatred. 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 The intense hatred caused the dead skin on his forehead to crack and enter the next level. But now Yilin is like a puppet that has lost its soul, and is not interested in anything external to the body. Only hatred surges like flames. He even wanted to step forward and strangle Xiao 11 to death. She directed all this. As soon as he understood what love was, he lost everything. Lost everything. If before, Yilin and Xiaorugjiu got married, fell in love, and got along with each other, and they were somewhat driven by fate, then when Xiaorugjiu turned into thousands of miles of flying snow and disappeared in front of him, at that moment Yilin finally understand, it turned out that Xiaorugjiu had become an indispensable woman in his life without knowing it. Xiao 11 looked solemn and raised a finger. It's a desperate gamble. Me and you, and my ship, under the supervisor's monitoring and under the so-called just judgment, we have no future. If there is really a future that allows you and everyone to live, the only one is now. In this tenth of a second, in the tenth of a second that Xiaorugjiu sacrificed her life to create for you, you can enter the return passage and return to the world you are in. At that time, you will have the power to win the bet. Haven't you been longing for power? Yilin closed her eyes. He didn't speak. In other words, he lost his interest in talking. But what he was thinking about at the moment was that the everyone Xiao 11 mentioned did not include Xiaorugjiu. Just end it. That's all. Let it all be over. He's tired. Xiao 11 in front of her did not interact with Yilin. She is like a video that has been saved in advance. At a given time and in a given scene, she plays a video for the desperate Yilin. Xiao 11's fingers changed from 1 to 2. She sighed softly. I can roughly imagine how you feel now. Then, I'll give you two choices. First, move forward, step through the door, and return to your reality. Second, turn around and kill Ling Yi. This time, it's up to you whether to move forward or stay here. Your decision will determine the only reality and the only future. Zi. The video left by Xiao 11 disappeared. Yilin opened her eyes. Those eyes were not human-like, they were bloodshot and the eye sockets were cracked. Ferocious tears of blood flowed from the corners of Yilin's eyes. But unexpectedly, the corners of Yilin's mouth split to both sides. He laughed so hard that the corners of his mouth cracked. Xiaorugjiu bought him just 1/10 of a second. By walking forward and crossing the door, he can complete the invasion and return to the reality where he is. These are the two choices Xiao 11 gave Yilin. In this 1/10 of a second. A moment that barely had time to complete in the blink of an eye. Yilin turned around and faced Ling Yi with a weird gesture and a weird smile. This is not a choice at all. He doesn't have to choose. At this moment, he no longer thinks about so-called interests and no longer tries to find ways to live. At this moment, he was no longer Yilin. But Lin Yi. He is Xiaorugjiu's husband, Lin Yi. Yilin slapped his chest, and the rich blood rose into the sky like a beam of light. His hair stood up like a glaring vajra, and his expression was like an evil ghost, extremely terrifying. The strong hatred overwhelmed everything and Yilin's reason. The shadow of the throne appeared behind Yilin. Thousands of streams of light converged on Yilin's fist. 1. The dark beam of light pushed everything aside. Yilin punched out the twisted space, tore apart the subspace, and submerged Ling Yi's figure. After this punch, Yulin lost any strength and knelt on the ground slumped. Ling Yi stood still. Xiaorugjia's move to freeze everything at the cost of her life only froze Ling Yi for less than a second. The frost and snow peeled off, and Ling Yi walked towards Yulin. Execute anti-intrusion procedures. Ling Yi made a cold sound that was not human. At this moment, Ling Yi seemed not to recognize Yulin, the childhood sweetheart she had grown up with. Under Yulin's punch, everything in front of him was divided into two halves. The steel city was torn apart by terrifying force, and on both sides of Ling Yi, the bottomless abyss spread in a fan shape. The residents of the city suffered numerous casualties. Yulin's punch didn't even have the slightest thought of not hurting innocent people. But the power of this punch actually avoided Ling Yi and everything behind her. Yulin lowered her head. He knew that it was not Ling Yi who defeated him, but Yulin who defeated him. In Green's nightmare, Yulin simulated trying to kill Ling Yi a total of 13,672 times. Only the last time, Yulin succeeded. But when the real Ling Yi came to him, even Yulin watched helplessly as his beloved and his best friends were killed one by Ling Yi. With such strong hatred, he still lost to himself. The brilliant dagger stabbed into Yulin's heart. This is not an ordinary attack, but obliteration. Yulin lowered his head and said in a hoarse voice, "Who are you?" This is not a question. It's an affirmative sentence. Yulin just waited for this existence to say that word himself. Watchdogs. Distorted bands of light appeared out of thin air from all around. Countless bands of light, like chains, wrapped tightly around Yulin's limbs and body, making him unable to move. A dark door suddenly appeared at Yulin's feet. The black door opened, and inside was an endless and deep quagmire. Countless bands of light dragged Yulin down into the black mire. In the process of falling, Yulin's ferocious eyes stared at the indifferent Ling Yi, and her hoarse voice squeezed out word by word from the gap between her teeth full of blood. Watchdogs. Even if I'm in hell. Even if I become undead. Wherever I go next. I'll crawl out. I'll do whatever it takes to get out. I will do my best to crawl out of the mountain of corpses and sea of blood, climb out, climb out. Then I'll kill you. Kill you. Boom. The dark door was closed. In the quagmire, only half of Yulin's face was left. But he still raised his head stubbornly and used his last strength. It was as if he wanted to remember this face deeply in his heart. Yulin, death. Yulin seemed to have entered a river. Float and float, seemingly endless. There is no time, space, or even any concept that he can feel. Everything is nothing. He looked at his hands and feet, only dark shadows were visible. Not long ago, his own death report rang in his ears. He died. Completely dead. It's been a long time. People began to appear around Yulin. Many people are like shadows, without facial features and hazy. They were like driven animals, moving in a certain direction. My eyes are getting brighter and brighter. Finally, they came to a square. In the square, there are many people who are like Yulin, who have no form, and it is not even clear whether they are alive or not. No one spoke or chatted. Everyone, including Yulin, was like a zombie, standing quietly in the same place, crowded. A long time passed. A terrifying white mask suddenly appeared in the sky, with a sinister smile on its face. You are all trash, eliminated in every time artifact. He as rubbish, you should have the consciousness of rubbish. But now you have a chance to do it again. Among you trash, one of you will survive in the end. That person who survives the most severe test can leave here. By the way, I think you bunch of trash should be curious about where you are now. You are now in the garbage recycling bin. To use your words, it's hell. And now you are the eliminated undead. Hey, hell, You're welcome. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 1048. Chapter 1048. Tell a hell of a joke. Each author's summary at the end of the volume is a summary of the results. Except me. This volume is finally finished. This volume was destined to end with a knife from the beginning. I wanted to write a female character, a woman who makes Yi-Lin feel pain every time she thinks about her. She will raise her head and look up at the sky at a 45-degree angle, trying not to let her sadness show. When I first started to think about this dungeon, I knew that it would be difficult to integrate a complete and original fairy tale background into a dungeon. So we can only do subtraction. Remove unnecessary fighting plots, remove some character branches, and remove the complicated upgrade system. What I want to write about is the bonds and stories between people. As Yi-Lin realizes, and what I want to express, this is a more real world. Not everyone's story will be related to Yi-Lin. His existence is just a passerby to this world. In this copy, I wrote a few favorite characters. As for who they are, I can't say. The end is not necessarily the end, and death is not necessarily the end. We still miss you. Isn't there a saying that says a person's true death is the moment he is forgotten by everyone? Life will disappear, but thoughts will last forever. Anyway, this volume is over. Even when I wrote the 4 words urine, death, I had the urge to type out the whole book is finished. However, whether it is for myself or for the few readers who are still reading, I cannot end this story hastily. If nothing unexpected happens, there will be 3 more chapters. If there are no surprises, it will probably end after the summer vacation. I tried my best to bring a vigorous ending to this book, worthy of the first encounter between you and me in the vast sea of books. Next article preview. Volume 11. I Came from Hell. The world is unfair. The damned should die, but the damned should live well. If the world is fair, then they, and she, should be able to survive. I'll leave you an Easter egg at the end. Where did the daughter in reality come from? White Smile. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 1049. I became undead. Yi-Lin scratched her forehead and looked around with an expressionless expression. There are also many shadow people around, observing other people. Yi-Lin took the shortest time to understand her situation. His sanity came back online. Xiaorugjiu's death, everyone's death, this heart-wrenching sadness, Yi-Lin hid these deep in her heart during the long drifting. No matter where he comes, no matter what he becomes, he will find ways to survive for a purpose. Revenge. He wants to take revenge on Ling Yi and take revenge on the masters who caused this situation. It's not me that's wrong, it's the world. Let the world feel the pain. He. In Yi-Lin's mind, the restrictions of the 2 skills disaster-haunted and bloodthirsty catastrophe flashed through her mind, and she felt that they fit the situation inexplicably. After thinking for a moment, Yi-Lin was shocked and figured out something. It turns out that he was tricked by Xiao 11. The last 2 choices left by Xiao 11 were, in the end, Xiao 11 preferred to die there. Because he was deeply involved in that world and had experienced 3 reincarnations, he had already become a part of that world. In other words, he became an outsider in the judgment of Happy Paradise. If outsiders want to enter 11 Paradise, the only way is to invade. But his true identity is the registrant of 11 Paradise, an apostle. The 2 identities of intruder and apostle conflicted. The act of invasion attracted the supervisor and obliterated him. But the core rule of those who die in this world will become undead made him return to 11 Paradise in the form of an undead. At the end, Yi-Lin thought that he would sacrifice his life and deviate from Xiao 11's path because of negative emotions such as anger and hatred. But what he didn't expect was that all his actions were always part of Xiao 11's calculations. From a certain perspective, One of the objects of Yilin's hatred is Xiao 11. But should it? If it weren't for Xiao 11's arrangement, he would never have met Xiaorugjiu, Chen Bei, Huan Yang, or everyone. Yilin sighed softly in his heart, his thoughts gradually stabilized, and he returned his attention to the current environment. That mask, after he finished his opening remarks with a smile, gradually faded away and disappeared in front of everyone. He only said the same thing once. Yilin wrote it down word for word. In that opening statement, which seemed to be used to create an atmosphere, Yilin noticed a lot of keywords. Time artifacts. Do it again. Test. Only one survives. Hell. After extracting the keywords and combining them with the current scene and all the information Yilin learned before her death, Yilin came to a conclusion. In the past, he could only speculate, but now he has put the law to the test and put it into practice. I see. With so many undead souls fighting each other, the only one who survives in the end can become the Knight of the Apocalypse. Myrian died that year and eventually returned as the Knight of the Apocalypse. Apostles have trials, and the undead also have trials of the undead. But the trials of the undead are obviously many times more cruel than the trials of the apostles. Yilin silently counted the heads. Although Yilin couldn't see clearly due to the dense darkness, it was roughly estimated that there were at least 100,000 undead in the sealed square, etc. This thought made Yilin confused as soon as it came up. Only apostles who die in the other world will become undead. But 100,000 people. Are there that many? If Yilin guessed correctly, an apocalypse knight would be born in each district. Then, the Tower of War, the Tower of Conquest, the Tower of Death, and the Tower of Famine, the resurrection battles of the undead in the four towers should be separate. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. Is it 1 in 100,000? It's on fire. Yilin said in her heart. After he figured it out, he began to check his status. Apostle panel cannot be opened. Storage space cannot be opened. But that doesn't matter. The most important thing is, the dead skin on my forehead is gone. As a parasitic equipment, laughter mask acts as a parasite on Yilin's forehead. This has become Yilin's only criterion for judging whether she is an original body. As long as the dead skin is there, this is his true nature, as long as the dead skin is not there, it is not. Everyone else thought that Yilin was just picking her forehead, and no one knew that this action had a deeper meaning. Okay. No body, no skills, no equipment. He is pure spirit. According to Yilin's understanding, his body and everything about him were stripped away again. Exists in backup. If he couldn't leave alive, he would really send it now. Yilin is very calm, after all, he is a person who has experienced strong winds and waves. Now, he can gradually understand Wang Xiaohu's absurd wish of "I want to create a world with Yan Qingziu." A group of dark people began to move forward. 100,000 people, surrounded by a high wall. They could only see the wall and the sky. Everyone is like a caged bird, losing its freedom. All of them had no facial features and therefore could not speak. The place was eerily quiet. Swish swish. 100,000 people walked forward at the same time, and their footsteps merged into a strange rustling sound. What's in front? Yilin wondered. But now he can only follow the crowd. I do not know how long it has been. He walked a long way forward. But there were still crowds of people in front of and behind him. Yilin weighed her feet and looked past the wall of people, looking forward. There is a door ahead. A dark door. All the undead lined up in a neat queue and advanced towards the black door in an orderly manner. Trial. Yilin nodded, understanding. Among these more than 100,000 people, there may be some acquaintances or enemies of Yilin. But everyone is undead, and they can't recognize who they are. Even if they really know each other, it doesn't make any sense. This resurrection battle of the dead gave Yilin the feeling of a coliseum. They were locked in a cage and fought to find the only winner. Everyone understood their situation. No one will be merciful, no one will be compassionate. All undead are pure beasts, acting solely for the idea of survival. Finally, it's Yiren's turn. The dark door is tens of meters high and embedded in the wall. The door did not open completely, only a dark gap was exposed. Next to the door, there is a platform that looks like an operating table. There is a red panel on the platform. The person in front of Yilin silently pressed his palm on the panel for a moment, paused for a moment, then stepped into the crack of the door and disappeared. Driven by various complicated emotions, Yilin came to the door and put her hand on the red panel. Corresponding words appeared in Yilin's field of vision. Loading the undead module. Please wait with patience. Are you polite? Yilin thought to herself. 3 seconds later. Beep. A faint red light flashed on the panel, and the loading was completed. The undead module is loaded. Get 100 resurrection coins. Please cherish. Get temporary card slot. Randomly draw welfare experience cards. Ding. Get camouflage card *1. Your current service area, Tower of Death. The Tower of Death has 100 floors. About to enter the first floor. I wish you a happy life. Yilin was silent as a stinging sensation like electricity passed through him, making him unable to help but move his hand away from the red panel. Interesting. Yilin smiled in her heart, stepped into the huge door in front of her, and her figure disappeared into the darkness in the blink of an eye. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 1050. A dark stream of light flickered in front of Yilin's eyes, and at the end of the stream of light was a bottomless space tunnel. Torrents of black light passed through Yilin's body and disappeared behind him. During this process, Yilin felt that her body gradually changed from illusion to reality and took on a physical form. He was familiar with this process. It's nothing more than a trial. A trial of the undead. Zhang's previous speculation about the undead has now become Yilin's reality. He will stand against all the apostles and try every means to prevent them from completing their mission, or even kill them. Yilin now finally understood why the undead he met, such as the nameless undead in preparing for the apostle trial or the undead Lichanga he met in the world of Auranos, showed a fearless attitude towards death. It turns out it's because of the resurrection coins. A whole 100 pieces. But is it really a lot? Yilin thought about the 100 resurrection coins, but her mood did not become lighter. This doesn't mean trial of the dead is easy. But it means that, without these 100 resurrections, no undead would be able to complete these many levels and break out of hell. Call. In the waiting black light, Yilin took a long breath. He could finally breathe. Pick your forehead again. It hurts, it's not the original body yet. However, this situation was also expected by Yilin. Apostles and apostles cannot be generalized. If Yilin could come in his true form, or even if he could possess peak strength, he didn't dare to say that he could withstand the attack of hundreds of thousands of people, but it wouldn't be a big problem to secretly kill 100,000 people. This is no different than cheating. His strength, his freedom, his attributes, everything about him are equivalent to cheating. Yiren's peak appearance is a man who is equated with cheating. In the battle of resurrection of the dead, there should be a corresponding balance mechanism to prevent certain apostles from appearing too outrageous. Yilin thought happily as she entered the next scene. Yilin's vision went dark. The pungent smell of disinfectant filled the surrounding space, stimulating Yilin's olfactory cells. He jumped up from the bed. There are white walls on all sides, and there are dim light tubes above the head. The brightness of the light tubes may be flickering on and off due to unstable voltage. After Yilin woke up, she immediately looked at her surroundings. This is a small room of less than 10 square meters, with only 4 walls. The room can barely accommodate a single bed, and Yilin woke up from this bed at the moment. There was a faint sour smell from the bedding on the bed, and there were patches of yellowing on the pillow, left behind by some unknown liquid that had dried up. Next to the bed, a rusty 4-pole stood. Yilin picked her forehead. Really? There was no mirror in the room, but when he looked down at his skin color and palm lines, and then touched the outline of his facial features, Yilin was almost certain that this body was not his. Role-playing mode. His vocal cords vibrated, and a sound that was unfamiliar to Yilin came out of his mouth. Role-playing mode. Sealed ward. Is this a hospital? What hospital? Yilin looked up and looked for the exit as a matter of course. The only exit was the door to the room. Yilin stepped forward and twisted the handle. The handle could be turned, but the door could not be opened. Apparently the door was locked from the outside. Apart from this door, the only thing connecting the room to the outside world is the window on the wall, which is more than 2 meters high from the ground. This window is square, about 20 centimeters long, and can barely accommodate a normal human head. But the focus was not on the size of the window, but on the fact that this window, which was obviously not meant for people to pass through, was sealed tightly with iron bars. Yilin jumped up on the spot and took a quick glance at it. He found that the fence was so dense that it could barely accommodate 2 fingers squeezing through. Yilin lightly knocked on the wall again. Boom boom. A dull sound echoed from the wall, and Yilin roughly judged the thickness of the wall, which was about 30 centimeters thick. After a while. Dong dong dong, again. Someone is knocking on the wall opposite. Yilin was slightly startled. On the other side of the wall, there were other people. Yilin ignored her friend next door. But when the person on the other side knew that there were other people nearby, he started knocking on the wall dong dong dong. Yilin noticed that the rhythm of knocking on the wall seemed to contain a certain rhythm. Morse code, Yilin complained, it's too old-fashioned. But he still interpreted it. WHORU, who are you? Yilin thought for a moment and decided not to pay attention to him. No matter how you answer this question, it makes no sense. After a while, it was quiet on the other side. The friend next door had good reason to suspect that the other person did not understand the Morse code, and if he continued typing, he would just be talking to a cow. Tuck, tuck, tuck. About 10 minutes passed. There were messy footsteps outside the door. Yilin closed her eyes and listened. He is trying his best to collect as much intelligence as he can currently obtain. Sound is also the first type of intelligence. Just like now, he got some information from the voice. 1. There is an empty corridor outside. 2nd, the texture of the voice told him that there were several women wearing high heels, most likely nurses. 3rd, these high heels are particularly sharp and can be used as weapons. While Yilin was thinking, mission reminders began to appear in front of his eyes. The task prompt is more concise and clear than Yilin imagined. Current level, level 1. According to the number of apostles killed, different levels of points can be obtained. Points and resurrection coins will affect your performance. Kill 0 apostles, -1 point, kill 1 apostle, 0 points, kill 2 apostles, 1 point, kill 3 apostles, 2 points, kill 4 apostles, 3 points, destroy the opponent in a group 5 points. Points can be exchanged for various props such as function cards at the dead resurrection point. The mission begins. Looking forward to your performance. Click. Yilin just remembered the words in front of her. There was a slight sound outside the door as the key was inserted into the door lock and turned hard. His memory failed. In the past, It only took him less than a second to copy a few lines of text into his memory. But this time, he read it 3 times before he remembered it word for word. But in fact, Yilin understood that it was not his memory that had declined, but the feedback from his attributes that affected his thinking. Shaking her head, Yilin was trying to get used to this brainless discomfort. He didn't get too entangled. His past experiences told him that no matter what the situation, no matter what deceitful things he encountered, he should keep a calm mind and face it calmly. Only then could he finally pass the trial and return to reality. Wait, that's not right. Yilin slapped her forehead. This time, some habitual thinking was causing trouble. He can completely ignore the issue of clearing the level and just find a way to kill the other apostles. The door opened. A graceful, plump, and fleshy nurse wearing a mini-skirt walked in. But there was strange makeup on her face, fishy red lips and blush, a layer of putty powder seemed to be scraped off her pale face, and thick purple eyeshadow under her eyelashes. At first glance, it seemed like a clown dressed as a woman. The smile on the nurse's face was as stiff and solid as a puppet's, and the corners of her mouth were tilted to both sides at a strange angle. You could tell at a glance that she was not a serious nurse. It's time for an injection. The nurse took out a steel needle as thick as a baby's arm from behind. She didn't wait for Yilin to react, then she rushed forward, and her other hand grabbed Yilin's arm like an iron hoop. Grass. No matter what medicine is in the needle, if this needle alone is injected, the person may die. As the nurse began to take action, heart-wrenching screams echoed in the corridor. It seemed like someone next door had been stabbed hard. Yilin no longer hesitated, raised 2 fingers and inserted them into the other person's eyes. The nurse's strength was terrifying. One of Yilin's hands was bound and there was no way to break free. However, the eyes are one of the most vulnerable parts of the human body. As long as the other person is still a human being, the eyes are undoubtedly the weak point. Puzzle. The aqueous humor in the eyeball squeezed out from between Yilin's fingers, bringing out a large amount of blood. Not only that, Yilin also dug hard, trying to kill the opponent face to face. The black tiger digs out the heart, digs out the heart, digs out the heart. Grandmaster inserts eyes, inserts eyes, inserts eyes. Using a set of street gangster moves, Yilin killed the nurse. Looking at the 2 hideous blood holes on the face of the corpse on the ground, where the eyes were, Yilin felt no emotion at all. He looked at his left arm. There was a circle of bruises there. In the fight just now, his wrist was almost broken. Yilin groped for a moment on the corpse. No weapons, no equipment. There is only one key. There is a number on the key, which is the room number. Next door, and next door, the walls were shaking. Other apostles were equally decisive and fought with the nurse. The screams continued one after another. Yilin ignored the screams of the others. Before leaving, Yilin took one look at the nurse's high heels and her eyes lit up. He picked it up and took a look, and sure enough, the base of the high-heeled shoes was actually made of pure steel. The 8-centimeter-long heel was sharp and thin, and it looked like it could be used as a weapon. Women's high heels, left. Grade ordinary. Effectiveness: it can be worn on the feet to increase visual height, regardless of gender, as long as it can be worn. Explanation: these are the standard high-heeled shoes worn by nurses at the Vania General Hospital. Each nurse has received a certain degree of professional self-defense training. In an emergency, they may be able to use high-heeled shoes as weapons. Yilin took away a pair of shoes. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 1051. As for the syringe, needless to say, Yilin naturally planned to take it with her. It's a pity that the syringe has no properties, and it seems to be an ordinary murder syringe. When Yilin went out, I pinched the high heels out of habit. He tried to turn it into a card, but failed. Why? When the undead loads the module, since it has a temporary card slot, it means that the undead can also use props just like the regular apostles. Opening the temporary card slot feels similar to opening the panel. 10 translucent groove shadows were arranged in 2 rows in front of Yilin's eyes. He tried to force the high heels into the grooves, but failed. This is a bit painful. Whether it was a syringe or high-heeled shoes, they were particularly conspicuous on his hands, making him look a little suspicious. The steel needle tube of the syringe seems to be difficult to pull out. Even if it can be pulled out, it is not as smooth as holding high heels with both hands. Except for the needle tip, the barrel of the syringe is made of glass. If you swing it too hard and crush the glass tube, the prick will turn into a self-prick in minutes. Moreover, the liquid in the syringe is also suspicious. Then take it with you first. After thinking about it, Yilin picked up the weapon that she had picked up and prepared to go out. In the end, all that was left on the nurse's corpse was the nurse's uniform that had become tattered during the fight, and he was too embarrassed to pick it off. The screams next door became weaker. Don't miss this opportunity, the time will never come again. If Yilin gets rid of the nurse faster, he can take advantage of the chaos and harvest the heads. Of course, Yilin was not upset that she was a step slower now. From the points rules, Yilin can see that the undead's failure penalty is slightly equal to nothing. If the undead sneak into the trial, even if not a single apostle is killed, it will only deduct 1 point. Killing an apostle is considered minimum living security, with no merit and no fault. There is an extra point bonus for destroying the apostles, which is a full 5 points. From the description, we know that points can be redeemed for cards and other props. This should be a very important hard currency among the undead, equivalent to the death point. The pain in the injured left hand has eased a bit, the bruises and swelling are gone, and he can move around, so it seems to be intact. The difficulty of this trial is very average. Yilin walked for a while in the corridor and found that the atmosphere of this hospital was very underworld, with no other windows visible from beginning to end. But along the way, he didn't encounter any strange creatures or hostile humans, and the journey was uneventful. In addition to the gloomy atmosphere of this hospital, Yilin felt that there weren't many people there. After turning the corner, there was a map taped to the wall. This is the structure of the entire hospital. Yilin did not hesitate and tore off the map. He stared at the map for a while and looked at the overall structure of the hospital. He roughly guessed the apostles' main mission. Isn't this the most plain and simple escape trial? It's really boring. Yilin smacked her lips, memorizing the map and continuing to explore. Near the wall with the map, there is a room that seems to be a printing room. There is a paper shredder in the print room. Yilin was stunned for a moment, then understood, and stuffed the map into the shredder, to crush it. The map is gone. On the surface, it seems that the only exit of the hospital is definitely the main door, but if I guess correctly, it should be a trap that will lead to death. What I am more curious about now is how the killing of the undead is judged based on it. If the apostle himself commits suicide and dies in the trial, will it be counted as the deeds of the undead? Anyway, the trial was not difficult, so Yilin decided to take advantage of this rare opportunity to study the rules of the resurrection tournament. The trials indeed encouraged the apostles to kill each other. It can be seen from the shredder next to the map just now that if other apostles discover the map before Yilin, he can share it with his teammates or keep his own exploration information to himself. Boom, boom, boom. At the corner of the corridor, the footsteps of a group of people were heard. Yilin's expression changed slightly and she quickly got into a nearby ward. There was no one in the ward, and Yilin breathed a sigh of relief. Walking past were a group of security guards carrying riot shields, with the hospital's cross embroidered on their armbands. There were more than 20 security guards in this team. They walked past the door of the room where Yilin was hiding in a hurry. Yulin could tell from the direction they were going that they were heading to the place where Yulin had just killed the nurse. A ward. Looks like he was exposed. Yulin waited through the crack in the door until the security guards left, then nodded and quietly emerged. The level of this trial should be very low, not even extraordinary elements. A simple closed scene, a little dangerous elements, a few hints of the underworld atmosphere, and finally an ordinary escape main mission. Could this be? Yulin laughed dumbly, remembering his original experience. With the map, Yulin's pace of exploration became more steady. There are no cameras in the area on the first floor. The areas where cameras are installed are in the office areas, pharmacies, sewage treatment rooms and other places on the second and third floors. The map should be the best tool for clearing this trial, bar none. After thinking for a moment, Yulin followed the map instructions and slipped into the logistics department. There are many spare work clothes in the logistics department, including doctors, nurses, and logistics employees. Yulin put on a cleaner's clothes and put her high heels in her arms. As a man, isn't it reasonable to carry high heels in your arms if someone discovers you? As for the syringe, he hid it in a bucket, which was filled with water. For a while, it was not obvious that the murder weapon was hidden inside. He also destroyed all the maps he could find. The task of the undead is very simple, just make it disgusting. Yulin gradually figured out how to play. After 1 hour, security teams dispersed and patrolled the hospital. The security guards carrying batons look like patrol monsters in the game. They have a fixed patrol route. As long as they find a suspicious escapee, they will immediately surround them and press them together. In order to test the vigilance of the patrol officers, Yulin deliberately held the cleaning tool from a distance and waved it in their field of vision for a few seconds. Well, safe. This is indeed a feasible way of escape. Yulin found it boring. The difficulty of this trial is no longer average, but very easy. If he guessed correctly, this was most likely a preparatory apostle trial. After reasoning and analysis, Yulin was able to see through the crisis in the trial at a glance, as well as the way to break the situation. He could even guess the movement route of the apostles. These are not brought about by abilities such as attributes, but by experience. Yulin has rich trial experience. In his current opinion, this trial is really too simple. It was much easier than the cabin escape of his preliminary apostle trial. In this trial, there are at least 2 real ways to escape. But what does this have to do with me? Yulin scratched his head. He had destroyed all the maps he could find. A shredder could be found near every map. It was very convenient. It could be shredded. Without the map, the newcomers who are struggling to survive in this simple trial will see their probability of passing the level plummet, which can be said to have risen from normal difficulty to nightmare difficulty. Yulin has almost explored the map. Finally, he determined that there were 3 real ways to escape. Perhaps it was a coincidence that he finally met several newbies as a cleaning staff. He pushed open a door. This was the equipment storage room, which contained some bulky instruments. The newbies were hiding inside, shivering. All the doors in this hospital can only be locked from the outside. Due to Yulin's personal habit, she walks silently, so when Yulin holds the bucket and mop and pushes the door open, she squats in the corner and panics. All 4 of them were dumbfounded. Damn, Yulin didn't expect them to be hiding here. Isn't this waiting for people to catch them all in one fell swoop? The door is locked from the outside. How dare you hide in the room? You should use your brains. In this level of escape trial, of course you have to rely on yourself. Yulin thought with some hatred in her heart. As an undead, after the attributes were reset, Yulin wanted to fight for, it's not impossible. Maybe he could kill 1 or 2 with lightning speed, but Yulin's goal was to destroy the group. If the team is destroyed, you will get more points, maybe 1 more point. As his thoughts were spinning, Yulin's movements and eyes became a little dull, and he began to clean the room meticulously. The four Mensins looked at each other with surprise and uncertainty. They were two men and two women, and their facial features did not look like Oriental faces. But since it is a role-playing mode, everyone is not their original appearance, so appearance description is not important. Yulin noticed a shivering man hiding in the corner. His arm was wrapped with blood-stained gauze. The gauze was still wet, so the bleeding probably hadn't been completely stopped. It's possible that during the first fight with the nurse, he got a shot in his arm, a very thick shot. A girl gritted her teeth and prepared to take action. But her movement was restrained by an old blonde man next to her. "Don't act rashly." Yulin continued to sweep the floor as if nothing had happened. It was not until Yulin walked not far from them that he noticed the presence of the four of them. He frowned and said, "What are you doing here? Go back to the ward." After saying that, Yulin continued to lower his head and do his own thing. After scanning around, he was ready to leave. "Excuse me." When Yulin walked to the door, the blonde man who was holding his teammate down had his eyes fixed. He took a step forward and walked around between the door and the cleaner. His eyes flickered and said, "We have something to do and want to go out for some air. Can you tell us where the exit is?" "You want to go out?" Yulin turned around and asked stupidly. When the others heard this, they were shocked. How could they ask for directions like this? "I see." "Yes," the blonde man nodded, "the dean said we can be discharged, but we can't find the exit." The man deliberately emphasized the word discharged. "Oh, that's it." Yulin showed a look of sudden realization. He stood at the door and pointed in one direction to guide others. "Go forward 200 meters in this direction, turn right at the second intersection, and go straight, then turn left at the third intersection. You can see a hall, and you can leave after completing the discharge procedures at the nurse's office." After Yulin finished speaking, she walked out without looking back and continued sweeping the corridor. He secretly thought that it was a pity that if the blonde man hadn't sensed the danger and arrived at the door in advance, Yulin would have locked it as soon as he went out. Then call the security guard and kill four in one breath. Perfect. Yulin patiently waited for the next opportunity and continued to play the role of cleaner. The blonde man's occupation in reality seemed a bit interesting. When he looked at Yulin, the direction of his gaze made Yulin afraid to reveal more information, and she tried her best to pretend to be an NPC. The remaining three people's faces were full of surprise, and they supported each other and sneaked out of the room. Yulin heard them discussing from a distance. "How did you find out that he had information about the main mission?" "Haha, I served in the army many years ago. Although I am not an elite, I am good at observation." The man with gauze wrapped around his hand lowered his head and said, "Although I don't know why we were thrown into this ghost place, but since the unknown existence released the main mission, there should be a way to complete the mission. Just like in the game world, there are intelligence clues everywhere. The cleaner just now is probably a neutral NPC who provides necessary clues to pass the level. In addition to him, there are probably other similar tool people. Stop talking, let's leave this ghost place quickly. People really die here. This shabby hospital is like a maze, there isn't even a map to navigate." The four of them squatted half-crouched and entered the stealth posture. They complained softly and carefully walked toward the path pointed by Yulin. After they walked away, Yulin couldn't hear what they were saying. After thinking about it, he followed them curiously.